Part 1. Introduction. When we think of zombies, most people immediately think of familiar scenarios: devastated cities, deserted streets, and humanoid creatures limping around hunting their prey. But what if the zombie epidemic did not start on land, but broke out in the middle of the ocean? This scenario would be completely different, not only because the aquatic environment creates unique conditions for infection, but also because the depth, pressure, and complex biological factors make control nearly impossible. The ocean covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface, containing a huge ecosystem with millions of species from microscopic organisms to giant whales. More importantly, it is a world that humans still know very little about. More than 80% of the seabed has never been explored in detail. It is this mystery that makes the ocean a potential disease reservoir. Viruses, bacteria, and parasites that have never come into contact with the terrestrial world can exist for millions of years, just waiting for an opportunity to awaken. Imagine an ocean-borne pathogen emerging. It could be a variant of a behavioral parasite like the Ophioccordyceps fungus in insects adapted to salt water, or a durable prion that can withstand pressure thousands of meters deep. When it enters the body of a fish, squid, or even a dolphin, it causes unusually aggressive behavior, disrupting the natural behavioral chain and turning the victim into a tireless hunting machine. The unique thing about a sea zombie outbreak is that humans will not be able to detect it immediately. On land, a zombie attack can be recorded by security cameras and phones and spread within hours. But at the bottom of the sea, everything happens silently, thousands of meters below the surface. It was only when unusual phenomena began to appear: shark attacks on ships, mass whale strandings, and mysterious disappearances of sailors, that humanity realized that there was a threat emerging from the ocean. The problem here was not just identifying the source of the disease, but that the marine environment was completely open. There were no barriers, no effective containment. Once a pathogen appeared at any point in the ocean currents would take over the role of transporting it around the world in a matter of months. This turned a sea zombie pandemic into a global biological disaster from the very beginning, before humans had a chance to react. In the next section, we will analyze in more detail the possible origins of the sea zombie virus and why the ocean floor could be the perfect incubator for such a disaster. Part 2. The origin of the sea zombie virus. To understand why a zombie pandemic might originate in the ocean, we need to look at two key factors. 1. The biodiversity of the sea, and 2. The ability of pathogens to evolve in high-pressure saltwater environments. 1. The seabed, an untapped repository of pathogens. Thousands of meters deep, sunlight cannot penetrate. The temperature in many areas is only a few degrees Celsius, and the pressure is hundreds of times greater than on the surface. In these harsh conditions, most living organisms have to evolve special survival mechanisms, and along with them, completely different types of microorganisms than on land. They are able to withstand low oxygen levels, extremely cold temperatures, and most notably, the ability to hibernate for hundreds or thousands of years in seafloor sediments. This means that if a pathogen has the ability to manipulate nerves or behavior, it can survive for a long time before it finds a suitable host to break out. 2. Hypothetical origins of marine zombie pathogens. There are three main scenarios that could lead to the emergence of an ocean-borne zombie pathogen. A. Behavioral parasites evolve in the marine environment. Similar to the terrestrial fungus Ophioccordyceps, a marine parasite could evolve to control the nervous system of its host. For example, an extreme variant of the Analocra parasite, which attaches to fish, could develop the ability to cause brain damage, triggering constant hunting behavior and suppressing the fear reflex. B. Ancient neuroviruses. In deep trenches, there may be biological specimens from millions of years ago, the remnants of extinct species. A neurovirus that caused a pandemic in prehistoric marine life could be released when deep-sea mining or oil drilling breaks through the protective sediments. This virus, when introduced, could destroy the central nervous system, making the host aggressive and painless. C. Artificial transformation from biological experiments. Humans have experimented with many types of biological weapons at sea, from the Cold War to the present. A dangerous scenario is that a naval laboratory testing neuroviruses to control sharks or large marine animals has its data and specimens leaked. The seawater environment would become a natural replication furnace, spreading pathogens at an uncontrollable rate. 3. The unique transmission mechanism of sea zombies. A zombie epidemic on land is usually transmitted through bites, contact with blood, or bodily fluids. But in the sea, the water element creates a terrifying advantage for pathogens. Diffusion through the environment. If the pathogen exists in microscopic form viruses, parasitic spores, it can spread directly through water, putting any organism swimming through the infected area at risk of infection. Long-distance hosts, dolphins, sharks, sea turtles, and many migratory fish species can carry pathogens thousands of kilometers, turning a local outbreak into a global disaster. Food chain. Infected organisms, when eaten, will transmit the pathogen to predators, expanding the range of infection to species at the top of the food chain. 4. Why marine pathogens are more dangerous than on land. Difficult to detect. The ocean is vast and dark, making it extremely difficult to track and identify the source of infection. Difficult to contain. There is no way to close the seas like land borders. Rapid spread. Global ocean currents can carry the pathogen to every ocean in less than a year. In the next section, we will analyze the outbreak phase when the sea zombies start attacking ships and invading coastal areas, along with the initial human response to this threat. Part 3. The outbreak phase. When the ocean becomes a living infectious disease, when the zombie pathogen escapes the initial area, the speed of spread in the marine environment will far exceed any terrestrial disease ever recorded. The reason lies in the characteristics of seawater circulation and the closely connected ecosystem at the bottom of the ocean. 1. Extremely fast spreading mechanism. Unlike the air environment, the ocean has strong ocean currents that can transport pathogens thousands of kilometers in just a few weeks. If the pathogen exists in the form of spores or parasites on plankton, they will follow the water currents to spread to the entire neighboring sea. Just one infected fish species migrating seasonally, the outbreak will jump to many different ecosystems. 2. Zombie behavior in the water. In the early stages, infected organisms may become more aggressive than usual, lose the reflex to avoid predators, and constantly try to bite or attack other organisms. An infected shark may charge into a large school of fish without regard for the risk of injury. Social species such as dolphins or whales are super spreaders because they live in groups and move around constantly. 3. The first signs people notice before they understand the nature of the incident. People may only see mass strandings, whales ramming ships, or schools of aggressive fish approaching populated coastal areas. Fishermen will be the first to come into close contact with infected creatures and also risk becoming a bridge for the pathogen to cross the border from sea to land. 4. Immediate impact on human activities. The fishing industry will be almost paralyzed due to the risk of attack. Shipping routes will be forced to change routes to avoid infected areas. Beach tourism will collapse as beaches are continuously invaded by aggressive creatures. If the sea zombie epidemic were limited to aquatic life, the consequences would be dire enough. But if the pathogen could adapt and spread to terrestrial mammals through contact or wounds, the marine phase of the outbreak would be just a warning sign of a global catastrophe. Part 4. Food chain consequences. As the zombie pathogen spreads across the oceans, marine ecosystems begin to collapse in a chain reaction. Infected organisms no longer behave according to natural survival rules. They attack indiscriminately, eat their own kind, or attack species that are not their prey. This completely unbalances the food chain structure. At the bottom, zombified crustaceans and small organisms become aggressive and destroy plankton populations. The decline in marine plankton leads to a decrease in dissolved oxygen in the water, directly affecting fish and large marine mammals. In the middle, sharks, tuna, and other key predators become the most powerful vectors of the disease. Not only can they travel hundreds of kilometers in a matter of days, but they are also capable of attacking targets of any size, from giant whales to scuba divers. This causes the rate of infection to explode exponentially. At the surface, schools of infected fish begin to swim close to shore or jump onto beaches in uncontrolled behavior. Seabirds and coastal mammals, seals, sea lions eat the infected meat and become new hosts. At this point, the pathogen is no longer limited to saltwater environments, but has adapted to survive in moist environments on land. Scientifically, the collapse of the marine food chain leads to an expanding dead zone, causing a severe shortage of global seafood resources. Millions of people lose their food sources and livelihoods, creating economic and social crises before the sea zombies even come into direct contact with humans. But what is more worrying and an irreversible turning point is when the sea zombies find a way to escape the ocean. P5. Jumping to land when sea zombies attack humanity. The most dangerous stage of the sea zombie pandemic begins when the pathogen has evolved to survive outside the water environment. Initially, infected marine mammals such as seals, sea lions, and otters begin to crawl deep into the land to hunt. With their nervous systems destroyed and their hunting instincts multiplied, they attack any moving creature, including humans. Scientists explain that this transformation may come from rapid genetic mutations of the pathogen, similar to the way some bacteria or viruses in nature adapt to live in many different environments. If the pathogen has a hybrid structure between a parasite and a virus, it can completely survive in the body of a warm-blooded host on land, while also enduring temporary periods of drought. Hypothetical reports suggest that if a group of zombie seals were to enter a densely populated harbor, the spread to livestock and humans would occur within hours. Unlike land zombies that require direct contact, sea zombies can transmit pathogens through splashes, blood, and even aerosols released when the host roars or roars. As a result, a series of coastal cities became epidemic hotbeds, isolated in a state of emergency. The Navy and Coast Guard were forced to set up blockades, using both sonar and underwater mines to destroy schools of zombie fish entering the harbor. However, because the ocean is so vast, complete eradication is almost impossible. In the long run, humanity will be forced to change its entire survival strategy, withdrawing people from coastal areas, moving commercial centers and seaports further inland, and developing technologies to detect pathogens early in the aquatic environment. But even if it does, the specter of a zombie creature lurking beneath the waves will remain in the human psyche, a reminder that the ocean is not only the cradle of life, but also the place where the apocalypse begins. Thank you for joining us on this haunting hypothetical journey from the dark depths of the ocean, where the first zombie pathogens might have emerged, to the terrifying prospect of them flooding onto land. While this is a hypothetical scenario based on science and fiction, it reminds us that nature is always full of unexpected threats and that humans have never truly had complete control over the world around us. If you found this content interesting, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next What If analysis. Share this video with your friends and leave a comment below. How long do you think we could survive if zombies really started at the bottom of the sea? Goodbye.